I'm Calla O'Ryan, Adult Services Librarian for Bailey Public Library. Welcome to today's event, Candidates Meet and Greet Night. Please note this portion of the event is being recorded. I want to thank you all for attending, and a big thank you to tonight's sponsors, the Bailey Public Library, the Capital Area Chapter of the Maine League of Women Voters. Regina Coppins and Mike Levy are here. The Winthrop Rotary, Patrice Putman is here. Winthrop Region Chamber of Commerce, Bill Stone is here. Vanderbrew, our local brewery, and AMI Alternative Manufacturing, Kim Vandermeulen is here. Most importantly, thank you to the candidates who are here with us tonight. Tonight's event will run like so. I will introduce each candidate. They will be given 5 minutes to speak, giving us a brief look at them and their priorities. After all the candidates speak, each will move to a table which is set up for them. We are free to sit with any or all of the candidates, have conversations, and ask questions. When all the candidates go to their respective tables, the recording will stop. Please say hello to Regina Coppins, volunteer with the League of the Women Voters.
Hello, thank you, and thanks for joining us this evening. I just want to point out that we have some brochures about that describes the league back at the table there. And I also just want to mention the website that's up now called Vote 411 that has information on voting in Maine, voting in your own district, the candidates. What the candidates have all been asked to submit information about themselves that we have put on this website. So please go to vote411.org to find out more about your candidates. And glad you're all here, and hope everybody gets to the polls or vote absentee ahead of time. Thank you.
Each candidate will give an introduction. First candidate is the candidate for State Senate, District 14, Craig Hickman.
Oh, there we go.
Welcome to one of my favorite institutions in all, the library. Welcome to Winthrop, my town. Unfortunately, family comes first for me tonight. I have to leave right after I say these few words because I had a family event on the schedule long before this, but I couldn't resist stopping in to see you all in person and to say hello and to introduce myself to any of you who may not know me. But if you do already know me, then you're not going to hear anything you don't already know. But I will simply read from my little poem card because it's less than 5 minutes. And it sums it up as far as I'm concerned. As the son of a Tuskegee airman and a wise woman, I have fought hard to strengthen communities and make life better for people. Public service is a humbling and most rewarding experience, at times a big adventure, always a great responsibility. My parents taught my sister and I that public service is both a purpose and a duty, which I take seriously. I'm stepping up to serve the good people of Senate District 14, which include Chelsea, Farmingdale, Gardner, Hollowell, Manchester, Monmouth, Pittston, Randolph, Reedfield, Wayne, West Gardner, and Winthrop. It's a vast, beautiful district. I have to say that I love Winthrop so much, but I have fallen in love with the landscape of Pittston. It is breathtakingly beautiful. And so if you haven't been to the other side of the district, please go. It's old, it's beautiful, it's agricultural, it's blueberries, it's just gorgeous. I look forward to serving again if I am honored and lucky enough to be reelected, because I welcome the opportunity to continue creating public policy that protects veterans, small businesses, and working families. Policy that promotes food self-sufficiency, clean energy, and ends poverty. Policy that invests in education and infrastructure and rebuilds rural economies. And policy that supports resilient local food systems and strengthens farming, fishing, and forestry, our heritage industries. I intend to continue with creativity, authenticity, and integrity to work hard for the people every single day. Just as I did this past session as the chair of the Committee on Veterans and Legal Affairs, which oversees, amongst many things, voting rights and labor and housing, I will bring people together to produce the fruit of common purpose, solving problems and promoting liberty and justice across partisan and ideological lines. I will always remain civil in the face of incivility, refuse to scapegoat any group of people for any reason whatsoever, and carefully choose the words befitting the office to which I hope again to be elected. So again, thank you all for coming. I know this is the first time, I believe, that the league has done this in this district or anywhere else, I believe, in this part of Maine. And so I really wish I could stay for the whole thing and take all of your questions, but I think you know where I live. And my phone number is 377-FARM. It's pretty easy. And so if you do have any questions about anything whatsoever, and of course, as your sitting state senator, if you have any issues that you want to discuss or help with access to state government, my door is always open. So I hope everyone has a great night. It's good to see the other candidates. Good luck, gentlemen. And I will see you on the trail. Goodbye.
Next, we will hear from candidate for House District 56, the unenrolled Kent Ackley.
Thank you. Thanks to the sponsors for putting this together. I hope this is not the last time that we have.
What did you say your name is?
My name's Kent Ackley.
Kent, K-E-N-T?
Yeah, that's it. A-C-K-L-E-Y. And of course, I'm the local independent candidate for Litchfield, Monmouth, and Wales. And, you know, I think Tip O'Neill once said that all politics are local. And I don't know, some other famous person said something about the secret to success. It's about 80% showing up and 20% following up. And so here I am. I've knocked on about 1,500 doors, maybe a little more, in Litchfield, Monmouth, and Wales. And there's a lot of issues that folks want us to be working on in Augusta. Of course, everyone's impatient about some of the national issues, some of the global issues that we've been given. But I think most folks are understanding that we can only control what it is that's in our own hands. And so some of the issues that I think folks care most deeply about are the local issues that have to do with things going on in our municipalities, in our county. And so I've come up with a list. It's my laundry list of bills that I intend to introduce if I'm elected on November 8th. There are a range of topics. Some of them are super narrow. Let me give you an example. The folks in Litchfield don't think that there ought to be 32 steps to withdraw from an RSU. Those folks aren't being heard in their school board. They're more interested in making sure that their local interests are represented. And so I'll put in a bill that takes a fresh look at what it takes to withdraw from an RSU. The folks in North Monmouth are growing impatient after about 60 years of a contaminated aquifer that was only recently confirmed by PFAS tests. So we've got about 200 families in North Monmouth that don't have clean, accessible drinking water, and they're drinking from bottled water. I'll put in a bill that'll help them figure out how we get public water supply or something else that's affordable so the folks aren't afraid of what comes out of the tap in their homes. When it comes to inflation, we don't have a whole lot of control over what's happening with global prices, with global oil prices. We do have control over what happens with our electricity supply. And I'll tell you, I'm going to put in a bill that ensures that CMP is held accountable for how it is they deliver electricity. Because right now they get a raise pretty much whenever they ask. And don't know if you've noticed recently, they're bottom of the barrel when it comes to customer satisfaction, when it comes to reliability, when it comes to how long their outages last, 10 times longer than the state of Nebraska, another rural state like Maine. I'll put in a bill that protects Maine elections. Actually, this will be the second time I put the bill in because the first time we couldn't get it to the finish line. There should not be foreign government influence in Maine's elections. That's just contrary to the whole notion of self-determination. I will put in a bill about local recycling. In the town of Monmouth in Wales, our transfer station had to stop the recycling of building materials because of some insurance liability. I'll make sure that any municipality that wants to have a local recycling program with reasonable safety standards doesn't have a liability issue there. You know, I've got a track record of dealing with local problems and successfully getting statutes changed when it comes to getting ethanol-free gasoline in Kennebec County, when it comes to getting free burn permits for people who just want to do the right thing, when it comes to getting a reasonable death benefit for first responders who pass away in the line of duty. These are all very small things, but they're all the things that people care about. They're local issues. We can spend a lot of time theorizing about national stuff, about who we're going to support on the national stage, but the fact of the matter is 90% of government is local government. These are local issues. I'm not the kind of person who's going to overpromise and underdeliver. I'm the kind of person who will stay within the pay grade of a state representative and set expectations that are reasonable. And so I'm Ken Ackley. And I hope you all look forward to November 8th. Glad to answer your questions at the end of this.
The next two candidates that we will hear from are candidates for House District 57. First is Corey Wilson for the Republican Party.
Hello. Whoa. Hey, I'm Corey Wilson, everybody. For those of you that I haven't met, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to hear what I have to say, and to the other candidates. I think it's always an awesome opportunity for us to get in front of as many people as possible and to be willing to answer any questions that any of you have. For the past, I don't know, when did I start running, Tavis? It's been a while. It feels like it's been a lifetime. But for the past, I don't know, 8 months or whatever it's been, I have been working very hard, knocking on a lot of doors, and I've always been willing to answer the questions of anybody, any question, honestly, truthfully, and to the best of my ability, and that's what I hope to do tonight. Who I am, though, my name is Corey. I've done an awful lot of things in my short lifetime of 37 years old. I was born actually in the town of Albion, which has more cows than people, and it's a relatively small town. I attended Lawrence High School. I graduated high school a year early and went into the Marine Corps 6 days after I turned 17 because it was right after 9/11 had happened, and I felt very strongly that I wanted to go and protect my country. It turns out, fast forwarding a little bit, maybe there was some misinformation from back then, but nonetheless, I was proud to serve my country at the time. I stayed in the Marine Corps, planned on staying in the Marine Corps until I suffered an injury to my neck. And ultimately got out after 4 years of active service, and then went into the reserves for 4 years after that. Worked for the Department of Homeland Security for a while before I got elected to the state legislature back in 2012. Thoroughly enjoyed serving in the legislature at the time. I served on Criminal Justice and Public Safety, Charlotte's committee, and really, really enjoyed it. The problem with myself at that time was essentially I didn't have $1 million bankroll, and it's very tough to serve in the legislature if you're not either independently wealthy, retired, or have a job that allows you to have a lot of flexibility. At the time, I didn't. So I opted to leave the legislature in order to pursue a career so I could afford to take care of my family. So I went to work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, where I was a healthcare administrator. I worked in the state of Michigan, ultimately took over the state of Maine and then the state of New Hampshire, and ended in charge of the Midwestern United States for their community care program. So I have a great deal of experience in healthcare. A couple years ago, I decided that I wanted to start my own company, and so my wife and I, who's here, her name is Sarah, if you haven't met her, we started a company in North Monmouth called Wilson's Recreation, a small ATV dealership and trailer dealership. So that's a little bit about my resume. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I want to do. First, I want to clear the air or make it very clear that I didn't get into this race because of anything that my opponent has done. I told him that right on the phone when we first spoke. In fact, when I decided I wanted to run again, I didn't even know he was the rep. So there is absolutely no bad blood between the two of us. We both run very positive campaigns, and I'm really happy with that. As we get into the final stretch, you can see we're happy to sit by each other, and there's just absolutely no bad blood. So while I see the tables are apart, I hope we can push them together. Some of the things that are really passionate to me, though, is I'm a moderate, okay? I'm a moderate. That's how I served before. I broke party lines statistically more than anybody did in either the House or the Senate on either the Republican or the Democratic side. Quite frankly, I don't care about the parties. I care about ideas that are good for Maine, and that's it. And that's where I draw the line. If the idea makes sense, I'll break from my party because I believe it's the right thing to do, and I've got a proven track record of doing that. Some of the things that I want to really work on are key policies for me. The first one is I really want to push to increase funding for trade and vocational schools. We've got a massive shortage of skilled workers in the state of Maine, and we need to, as our workforce continues to get older, we need to continue to invest to ensure that there's options available for the youth to be able to move into these careers that we really need. So that's the first thing that's on my agenda. I want to institute policies that are going to lower the tax burden. A couple things that I really want to do. One is I would love to eliminate a portion of the property tax for senior citizens over the age of 65 on a meaningful scale. There was a step made in the right direction this year with the property tax freezing, albeit that bill or that law certainly does need some improvement. I don't like the aspect that you have to redo it every year, for example. I don't think anybody's going to get any younger, so I don't know why they have to redo it every year, but that's just my opinion. I would like to see if we can get to the point where for at least the first $200,000 of a property's assessed value that we can just eliminate the property tax for somebody over the age of 65. Now, the problem with that is the state obviously is going to have to pick up the tab because we cannot expect the municipalities to pick up the tab for doing that. So that's one of my priorities. The second thing is I'd like to remove all of the retirement tax for retirees in the state of Maine. I don't believe that if you've worked your entire life that you should have to pay retirement tax. Another expensive endeavor that'll have to be phased in, but I think it's a worthy goal. Another big thing for me personally is fighting drug addiction. I have tried to work on this for many months and to really truly delve into this issue. About 3 months ago or 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, I lost my brother to a drug overdose. And prior to that, this was a big priority for me, as it's affected my own family, of course. But you can bet that it was a priority before, and it's going to be a key priority of the time that I serve. I want to increase grant funding for the construction of new detox and inpatient facilities. I want to increase the rates of reimbursement for detox, for inpatient treatment, and MAT, SUD treatment, and then I want to increase the reimbursement rates for mental health treatment. We cannot attract more providers and more facilities if we don't pay more money. That's the bottom line. So we can't be cheap in this area. Lastly, I want to go after the actual root cause, which I understand it is just a state representative seat, but the root cause of the deaths that are occurring in this state is fentanyl. And fentanyl is being produced almost exclusively in China. The state legislature needs to step up and send a strong message to the federal government through a resolve and working with our federal partners to ensure that they know that we want us to hold them responsible for continuing to produce this poison and spreading it into our own state. Energy is a big issue for me on my website. I'm probably over my 5 minutes. Yeah, energy is a big issue for me, but I'm working on it. I've got a great plan. I encourage you to go check it out on my website because reducing the cost of electricity is critical. And the last thing is affordable housing. Who doesn't want that? Grant programs we must have put in place, and to ensure that we're providing incentives for contractors to grow and build our housing stock in the state of Maine. And that's it, because I'm out of time. Thank you.
Finally, we're going to hear from candidate for House District 57, Tavis Hasenfus for the Democrat Party.
Did you say your name was Travis?
Tavis. Tavis, that's what my mom calls me, so. Sorry, I'm having some phone issues here, so I might have to go old school on us. But no, we're good. The last time I was in here, it was with Dr. Drew and his animals, and that was fascinating. Old tortoises, the room was packed with kids. Great programs we put on in this library. And thank you to the League of Women's Voters for doing this. I think it's very important for people to understand in every level of their elections, whether it's school board, state rep, state senate, president, who they're voting for and where they stand and who they are. And so to answer that question, who I am, well, 2 years ago, when I first decided to run for the legislature, as many of you know, we need to get signatures from members of our community. And I was at a basketball game, a Winthrop playoff game, and I saw Jerry Steele there, who unfortunately left us far too soon, just a couple of months ago. But I saw Jerry Steele there, and I said, I'm new to politics, but and I want to get in and I want to give back to our community. And I'll never forget what he said to me, and that was, he said, Tavis, just be yourself and you'll be just fine. And what he meant by that was be who you've always been. Don't change, don't be anybody different. I grew up in Winthrop. I graduated Winthrop High School in 2006. While I was at Winthrop High School, I was part of student government, and I cared deeply about everything I could do on the athletic fields, as many of you know. And I don't remember all of the lessons that I had at school. I don't remember, I probably shouldn't admit this, but I don't even know if I remember how to do long division. But what I do remember are the core values that Winthrop instilled in its students, and that is cooperation, compassion, respect, responsibility, and integrity. I've carried that lesson that I was taught by so many wonderful educators in this school district with me with everything that I've done. I carried it with me to the University of Maine, where I studied philosophy and minored in a bunch of different topics. I carried it with me to law school, and I believe that it's those core values that landed me a job back here at Levy, Wagley, and Putman as a young associate attorney approximately 10 years ago. And when I thought about what Jerry meant by those words, that was it. He said, Tavis, carry your integrity with you. We've all seen you grow up. We know you have it, and we know that you bring that to everything you've done in life so far, and why would you not bring that to everything in the future? And that's exactly what I do. And that's what's helped me as a legislator. It was my first term this year in a turbulent year with COVID, which had its challenges. But as we've learned that, sometimes with adversity, we grow from it and we actually have benefits. And I think that in large part, it will benefit the people of Maine to know that we can do hybrid Zoom meetings so somebody can stay in Aroostook County to testify on a bill and not have to travel all the way to Augusta. And it was those core values that were instilled in me by this public education system that made me so productive in our committee on the IDEA Committee, Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business Committee, where we worked together. It was not, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're an independent, and we can't get along. It was, this is a good idea for the state of Maine. This is going to improve jobs. It's going to improve business. It's going to make it easier to go to school. It's going to relieve the student debt burden on Maine children. It's going to keep Maine kids here, bring new professionals in. And it was that unyielding commitment to say, I don't care who you are, we need to work together to improve the lives of every single Mainer here. And I think that my colleagues in the State House would agree that, Tavis is somebody who leads with respect first, and he is honest, compassionate, caring, and he always will have integrity. And when he says something, he means it, and you can really trust what he says. And luckily, we had some huge accomplishments this year in the legislature. We, for the first time ever, fully funded education at 55% through a bipartisan bill, and we set aside $30 million to make sure that no matter what happens in the future, those funds are there. Because anybody who knows me and my family knows that we care deeply about education and educating the future, because if Maine is successful, it is going to be because our children are successful and grow up to instill those values, such as I have and my wife and my family. We also, did many other things, like I know Corey was talking about vocational schools and job training. Well, we expanded vocational schools. We improved the rehabilitation that they need. We've paid vocational teachers the same amount that we pay math, science, and education and social studies teachers, as they should be paid. We will continue on that path, and we provided free community college to graduating seniors in the last few years so that they can go out, get their associate's degree, be welders, be plumbers, be carpenters, and have no debt, and have a tremendous opportunity where if they want to work, they will have great careers, and we will benefit because when we call up an electrician, we can actually find one instead of getting a bunch of referrals. We bettered Maine through so many different things. In voting, we improved our voting system with audits and voting protections, made absentee ballot voting easier. We also made it so that independents, unenrolled, can vote in primaries. And I am incredibly proud of that, because I think the right to vote should not depend on your party affiliation. It should just be something that everybody has a right to as an American citizen. We improved recycling by making manufacturers have to pay for their own packaging, to put it on them so that they can figure out how to take care of this instead of putting on municipalities. We reduced the property tax burden on municipalities by funding schools for the first time ever, which I think when I was in high school we voted for that. But there's much more to do, and I'm really looking forward to, with your vote, getting back in the legislature and getting things done that we didn't do, like Kent's proposal to get big money out of our local elections and keep local elections local. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Once again, thank you all very much for coming. This ends the opening portion of the event, and we will now have the candidates go to their tables so that you can have a meet and greet. Thank you. Have a great evening.